Grid Investor Meetup. This week we're going to go, or this month we're going to go ahead and do we're going to do a nice good deep dive into how to invest in short-term rentals, kind of the ins and outs of the game. So Airbnbs, vacation properties, and more. We'll kind of do a couple of quick intros here. Slides working here, perfect. Hide that. Controls. Perfect. We'll do a little bit of intros. I like to start this off, kind of let everybody get to know each other. If you're joining us here online, drop your info here in the chat, kind of who you are, what you're looking for, what you'd like to get out of this group, and how we can kind of help everybody. So my name is Cory King. I'm a real estate agent here at Keller Williams here in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm also an investor in our market as well. I'm currently on the hunt for some vacant lots and land in Knoxville that I can kind of look to future build on. So if you know anybody, maybe has any of that kind of stuff, hit me up. I'd love to connect on it. My co-chair here is Justin Myers, kind of monitoring the online portion of this. Justin, you want to talk a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm our community manager. So I'll be reaching out to you as we go throughout the week there. I'm director of sales for our team. I'm the president of our young professionals group here at Keller Williams in Knoxville. I'm one of the ambassadors for Grid nationally, just talking about this platform that we have. I am looking for owner finance properties. Hey guys, welcome. Currently, so I'm looking for an owner finance opportunity for myself. I like East Knoxville, I like North Knoxville. I really like East Knoxville. We do some infill over there, and Cory and I are doing a flip right now in East Knoxville together with someone that we met in the room here. One of our partners. So I think actually should be here today. I think Steve should
cool.
be here.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I'm gonna go around the room actually, and we'll kind of start up from my left a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you're looking for specifically. If maybe you're looking for a deal or you have something you want to shop around, it's a great room to do that in. So I'm gonna start off my left side. I know we got Nemo here.
Yeah, so I'm Nemo. I am a licensed real estate agent. I've been a licensed real estate agent for over a year. I don't particularly have are we talking in terms of investment?
Sure, yeah, or just what you might be looking for.
Yeah, I'm just here to learn, and not necessarily looking for anything to invest in right now. But yeah, just looking for other streams of income. So here we are.
Sweet. That's awesome. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, I'm Kaya Arian, and I'm looking to get into landscape design specifically for investors, people who are wanting to get some curb appeal on their investments and sell them quickly. And I'm here today really just to meet people and to get as much information as I can. I'm new to this, so I'm trying to be a sponge and just soak up all the knowledge I can. So yeah.
Welcome. That's awesome. Thanks for joining us for sure. Mr. Howard.
My name is Bill Leith. I am an agent here. I'm brand new, Keller Williams Farragut office. My wife and I have owned a short-term rental at Telco Village for about 4 years now.
Sure.
We're currently living in it. We had it very successful, the VRBO and Airbnb. We're currently looking for homes. Been lost out on 4 homes so far: Farragut, Telco Village, Alcoa. $500,000 price range. If anyone knows of a home, we'd love to be the first ones in.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming. How is that market, by the way? Actually, in that Telco Village short-term rental piece.
Yeah. Well, there's a ton of them out there.
Yeah.
There's a ton of them out there, and I guess the takeaway from Telco Village is there's really no management companies that. Does that make sense? There's really no companies. I think there's some cash on the table out there if you want to do property management.
Right.
Because right now there's really only one player and they're not really into the short-term side of it. So that'd be the only takeaway for this group, I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome for sure.
Hi. Hey everyone, I'm Kylie. I'm with Concord Title, so I'm kind of here to help you guys answer any of title questions or kind of help out with our agents and kind of be there for any questions or anything that you guys need. I just started as the marketing director, so I'm just trying to kind of get to know everybody and see where we can help out and help you guys as agents. So yeah, that's why I'm here.
That's awesome. Welcome. Chris, you came in right on time. So right on that side. too. Perfect.
We just telling ourselves.
Yeah, we are. What you look for?
I'm Chris Ball, team lead of Chris Ball Properties, Keller Williams, out of the Bearden office. I'm just looking to start doing investments, building assets and generational wealth for my family. And so figure why not learn from the best? And this year we'll buy our first investment house.
Cool.
I may flip a home or get a long-term rental.
Cool.
I haven't decided yet.
I like it. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Super excited for you guys. Brandon.
Brandon Hutchison, been a realtor here for, I guess, 7 years.
Yeah.
Have a seat.
Come on in, grab a seat.
Partner at Hutch and Howard. And
That's the part I would-
currently looking for a Gatlinburg condo or something in the 600 range.
Good to know. Welcome, appreciate it. Carrie.
Mary Mays,
Yeah.
agent extraordinaire for 18 years. Previous broker and manager of these two
Right.
plus. Obviously, I've been doing investing for about a decade now.
Yeah.
I'm still looking for a couple more long-term rentals before I branch out into the short-term rentals. So something in that 225 to 250 range
Cool.
that needs some work.
Any area particularly you're eyeballing?
You know me, I'm good with Farragut, but also like your neck of the woods, Bexhill, Bennington,
Sure.
Farmington.
So
Yeah.
still kind of West Knox, but pushing towards maybe even Cedar Bluff-ish
Mhm.
area. kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, good deal. Bobby.
Hi, I'm Rob Howard, the Howard and Hutchin Howard. 19 years in real estate. I'm looking for some investment, like 1%, whatever, 1% purchase price per month,
Yeah.
whatever. Anywhere from Bearden to downtown, maybe a little bit further east, but my bread and butter is North and South Knoxville.
Sure. That's it. I love it. Come on, we're doing little intros, right? Who you are, what you're about. If you're looking for anything specific, it's a great time to bring it up, right?
I'm Ben Miller, mortgage lender with American Mortgage Network. What is my niche? My normal niche is VA loans, all things VA, even the construction loans.
Yeah.
But more recently, I've had a lot more of the short-term rental financing.
Sure.
But I'd like to hear more on my end of it personally, because I'm seeing a lot of really cool opportunities and pro formas, and
Yeah.
I'd like to get involved for that.
I love it. I love it. I'm glad you guys are here really just because I know we'll probably be going a little bit more into some of the financing piece, right? Certainly, title related, looking at condos where you've got almost everything short-term rental, if there's warrantable deeds, all those issues that can come up. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Did I walk in on my leave?
You sure did, man. Yeah, you
I
totally.
was sorry. I missed everybody else. Hey, guy, how are you? I'm Robbie Baker. I'm a newer agent here in the Keller Williams office. I'm here because I want to network with other investors, learn from some of those that have gone before me. Also want to be able to service investor clients.
Sure.
So that I can eventually build my own investment portfolio.
I love it. Good stuff. Hey, how are you?
Hey, everybody, I'm David Bonner. I'm not a realtor.
All good.
I'm
Yeah.
not a broker. I'm not in a title company. I'm not in any of that. I've dipped my toe in the past, and I'm ready to get back into it. Life set up a good serve for me to, try to get involved and as you guys kind of said, building generational wealth for the family. So it's as good a time as any. I'm mostly looking at around $500,000, mostly in downtown or inside the loop, North Knoxville or close by South Knoxville. Short-term rentals are probably if I'm doing 55, 45, 55 would probably be long-term rentals, 45 would probably be short-term rentals in terms of interest. But really trying to capitalize on that game day money. So
Yeah, no doubt.
that's where I'm at right now.
Great market, great time for that kind of thing too, right? That's awesome. Welcome.
Hey, my name's Ben Cheryl, and I'll second that. I'm not an agent or anything. I'm just getting in, but I want to know more about how the investment side works.
Yep. Awesome. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. I think we had Steve joined us a little bit late. So you want to tell everybody who you are, what you're about?
Sure. Well, I'm not an agent, but I live with one. That counts. I'm a private lender, hard money lender. Moved here about 1.5 years ago from South Florida. Great place. It's a great business. I get to witness a lot of really interesting things going on in this market, and I really enjoyed it so far, especially being here doing it.
That's awesome. Welcome. Well, man, thanks everybody for kind of joining us today. Couple things to kind of go over real quick. Oh, Justin, you guys.
We got Brandon. Jump in here, Brandon, unmute yourself. Tell us what you are looking for. And what
Yeah,
we should
so yeah, I literally just joined on because Dustin sent me a DM and saying, hey, do you want to jump on? I said, sure, I have some time. I just finished up writing up a contract. So my name is Brandon Thompson. I'm over in the Orlando area and definitely just looking forward to connecting with like-minded people and seeing if I can take anything that you guys are doing, because I am in a highly desirable short-term rental market. I would probably say in the past 45 days, had about 15 people reach out to me specifically for short-term rentals, because we have the #1 business partner in the world, Disney World, who brings about $7.1 billion a year to Central Florida. So just being able to pick in, see what you guys are doing and how you guys are calculating and things of that nature. So I'm just here to be a sponge, and yeah, because Justin's the boss. So that's why I'm here.
We appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Great resource down there. Rip off and duplicate.
Yeah.
Before Cory gets in the important legal stuff, which is everyone's most fun part, and I want to make sure we have enough time to go through that. He's gonna read every line of that. Just here's what I get asked a bunch, like, what is grid? Like, what's the point of grid? Someone's like, hey, why am I gonna come to grid? I don't know about short-term rentals. This is why, right? This room of people, like us sitting in here, meeting Steve, great person, right? Introduced him to some of our other people. I can say that, Steve, he was.
I wouldn't mind. And I know you better than you.
Yeah, fair. He's honest to a fault. And we just worked out a joint venture together, just having that relationship. And from talking to the guy that founded this, he's like, if I had to calculate an ROI, I'm just sitting in this room and forming relationships with people, right? That are all trying to do the same thing, sharing resources. It'd be like in the thousands. These are people that are coming in for 14 years that end up financing his deals that started off just sitting there to learn. So that'd be my advice. Anyone that you think would contribute, please invite them. Borrow our platform. If you've got friends, if you want, bring some people. We'll make you look like a big deal because you are. I'm really glad you're here. But that's it. We just want to have this. We don't sell courses. We don't sell books. We don't charge anything. It's open to anyone. Obviously, like it's a bunch of our agent friends here because we want them here because we know that educated agents are really important to work with investors. Right? Like I love. We're all investors. I've worked with investors my whole career. Like I love when agents have value to add to investors because I think it works better, right? We're symbiotic. You guys have some insight that we don't have, and we typically have some resources that even our really smart investors don't have. So really glad to have you here. Cory, let's jump into the fun legal stuff.
Let's do some fun legal stuff really quick. Just real quick, kind of a disclaimer, state of Tennessee likes for us to be just very clear in terms of all of our respective roles. And so really we're all here just to share information that is crossed all of our minds, yet at the same time, if there's maybe something that jumps out at you or before you're making major financial moves, I would always encourage you, go ahead, seek wise counsel, talk to your CPA, talk to other advisors that are out there. Because again, we're just here to share knowledge and ideas. Please don't take what I'm saying as like gospel, right? Go to those sources if you're curious, right? We can always refer you to some of those great sources, real estate attorneys, CPAs, things like that. With that said,
we are not attorneys. Use this information at your own risk.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely. So right over, we'll just kind of jump into it real quick. Like, what is a short-term rental? So that's just going to be right a furnished vacation style housing rental property. It's going to be rented primarily on like a nightly basis. Some projects are probably going to be doing it on a weekly basis. For the purpose of just generating kind of a quick turn and usually more income onto there. you're gonna go through just finding your different renters, managing the property, booking communication. A lot of this has already been streamlined through a lot of platforms out there, thinking like your Airbnb, your VRBO. Those are all gonna be great resources to be able to dive into it. Why do we do this? Really, overall, it's just a higher ROI on the asset. So going into it, people are looking to travel around, especially now. Last 2 years, people have been kind of locked down for 2 years. I think this year, we're already certainly seeing it in our market. Brandon, you'd probably be able to share some insight too, like how much more people are just traveling around overall. I think last year we saw a little over just 12 million visitors hit like our national park. I think that's only going to keep going up here as people are starting to travel around more and more. So much like a hotel, people are paying for convenience, nice amenities, I think unique experiences overall. That's certainly becoming more and more, I think, of a driving factor, probably depending on your demographic, but I would say like for millennials specifically, tend to have maybe a little bit more disposable income or looking for more of that unique experience, which is where something like this can really shed some value out there.
Seats up front.
What's up? Come on in. Yeah, come on in. Come sit down. What's up, Danny? How are you guys? Good to see you. So in the right areas, oftentimes this income can be 3, 5, 10x your usual income that you might see on a monthly basis, just by having it in a short-term space.
Yeah, I'd love, so what's everyone that's playing this, is anyone currently managing a short-term rental? Anyone own one currently? Just, so what's the multiplier between your long-term rentals and that? Like, what's the difference on a monthly basis?
Probably 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at one right now. We moved to like it was over $1 million, like in the fall, and now it's like over 2 to find like good deals, but they're gonna spend 2.6, they'll put down 20%, and it's gonna net, if it hits the same numbers as last year, 147. So it's like a 30% cash on cash return. Yeah, you're doing like 12,000.
Yeah, I bought mine for $290 and last year it made $40,000.
Yeah.
Is it gross or is that your net?
That was net.
Rock and roll.
Well, that was gross, sorry.
Okay.
There was a little bit of some piece there.
Sure. So we can factor it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why we're doing that. The other thing, I think, to go back and skip over that, the experiential, if you look at all of the data about millennial spending habits, experiential and like service explode. Like much more than like consumer goods, like they will pay for experiences, and if you look at like Airbnbs, anybody like.
Yeah, their new tag even is you can just search for unique experiences like directly. It's not necessarily just like, oh, I'm looking for a 1-bedroom kind of thing. They market a whole cross platform on there of just different unique experiences.
And I think that's a place in our market because the area is so unique. There's still opportunity. Like in Orlando, there's a community called Reunion where everyone's like individual, and you rent out and they have like a Star Wars room and laser tag inside. There's pretty massive places, and yet or there'll be like themed rooms. And I don't see anyone doing that in our cabin market. It's all the same sort of. They're just
same Lincoln Log.
Yeah, I think there's a big
same
opportunity there.
kind of thing. Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely. I definitely can see that overall. When it comes to like identifying areas, we'll kind of jump into this a little bit. Really, like where is this going to work? This is really just thinking your major vacation destinations. So certainly we're in a big market, Orlando or Disney. Just think where you're going to want to go vacation. Probably going to be a pretty good spot to start on the hunt, getting into it all. What kind of property? This is going to be a mixed bag, I think, depending on, again, what area and what really you're looking for in terms of what's your niche that you want to probably work into. So certainly single family homes, townhomes, condos, tents, yurts, all of these are realistic options when it comes to this kind of market space. Anyway, you're doing any kind of unique things, by the way? I mean, I know there's some other platforms out there. Hip Camp is one I think of where you can charge like $20 a night to camp in the backyard kind of thing.
We just sold a campsite. The tents.
Glamping.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was Tell me about that a little bit. Like, what was that whole place kind of set up as?
Brandon knows
So
more.
they had 5, well, was it 5 or 4? I don't know.
Okay, it was a cabin and 4 joint sites and on 9.47 acres.
Yeah.
In Pigeon Forge.
Did you have the list or the buy side on that?
We had the listing.
I thought I saw one like that, actually. And my client was worried about like torrential rains.
And it was not right for them.
It's,
Right.
yeah, it's closed during the torrential rain season.
Each tent made like $20,000 last
Per 10.
year, per tent.
Wow. Rock and roll.
And then the cabin, I think it made like 50.
Sure. And they lived in that one, correct? Like kind of part-time, so really that gross kind of jumps up from there. But that's a great example in terms of almost kind of working in a hybrid kind of space, right? Where it's a cabin on some land that you're then going around and building out a little bit more infrastructure on in order to kind of pump those rents. And that just yields to that unique experience, right? There's kind of,
We also had a site where it was an RV parking space, and the camp hosts, whenever the owners were out of the area, the camp host would manage it. So they could park their RV there for free, have space, but they oversaw making sure everything was good. So it's kind of a magical little extra fit.
yeah, that's pretty sweet.
If anybody's interested in that glamping model, we were on a call with this guy's a national authority on this. This guy Kai Andrew. And we've got opportunity to do an invite only one. It'd be like a pass-through cost. We gotta book them, but I'm happy to like share that evenly if we get, let's say, 10 spots. And that guy it was like an hour and a half of content, one of those like packs into an hour. Here's the golden triangle. Here's how I get around zoning. Here's how I do my stub outs for electricity. Here's my mix of glamping, so I can give it like sound design, right? And he's pulling down $6,000 a month from each of his doors. He's narrowed this down. He only manages 6 doors. So he's getting 36,000 a month out of 6 properties, just glamping. Here locally, there's someone, I got their card. I can send it to them if they're interested. That's Conestoga Wagons. Instead of that yurt thing. It's basically the same model, like an agritourism that me and Will met last 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can go down and check it out. So, because that's a model, if you have an agritourism, you can get around it. And we had this conversation at lunch. Brandon or Rob, if you want to talk about the zoning problems you can run into in the city, because we were talking to people that are getting shut down. Like if you're doing this without the proper areas.
Right. Yeah. That is something we've had some investors that have gotten shut down, but if you physically, that's your mailing address, that's where you live. That's kind of the secret way to get around it in the city of Knoxville.
City of Knoxville.
At least for short term. Yeah. What you were talking about with the yurts, I have 7 acres, but it happens to be next to a shooting range. So, I mean, yeah, it's a beautiful 7
Yeah,
acres.
you can market it.
Yeah, I know.
You
Yeah,
can
like,
get
you
like a
market
joint
it to-
contract with the shooting range or something like
Yeah,
that.
do you
for
market
girls.
to hunters? I don't know exactly. It's right next to the Ocoee River, so it's kind of a.
I would just include a day pass to the shooting.
Sure,
range.
yeah.
Okay,
Bakes into your thing, man.
That's smart.
that's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely say, I could certainly see my dad paying good money to come up here to camp and just shoot all day. Absolutely, yeah.
Your dad.
Yeah, the arsenal that guy could bring up was staggering. Right, so there's options at the end of the day, really, in terms of type of property. You could certainly look at just kind of the base model of what's the most common. If this is your first foray into it, I'd probably just consider looking at like what's the standard for the area before maybe getting extra creative. Just to get your feet wet, understanding like this is the basis, what most people are going for. Say in our market, it's cabin's probably the way to go. Or at least intro, like going through it all.
Who stayed in an Airbnb in here? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, everybody.
Private residence? Anyone say, I stayed in someone's house and checked the units, and he would just, the guy would like, came over, introduced us, and he went like stay with his girlfriend. I think if I was looking to get my feet wet and I live someplace near downtown, I would just experiment with like, where can I sleep and rent a place out for game day?
Or if you live on the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just start that way personally.
Yeah, I have friends that, they own like 7 or 8 rental properties a day. And every time they leave out of town, they just rent or they Airbnb their house.
Yeah.
They already have those and then some extra money there, so.
Sure.
Just like house hacking, same kind of concept, and just
Yep.
road test some stuff.
I'm thinking back to when the eclipse happened and how everyone flooded to this area.
Oh, yeah.
Airbnbs must have just been enough.
For real.
Yeah.
Oh, every time just like rent out your yard.
Yeah, yeah.
So like camp in the yard kind of
Yeah.
thing, like, man. Yeah, great. I mean, it's a great opportunity. And really, I think one of the things that comes up is kind of like, what's the catch to it all is like understanding that this is not, you're now in kind of the hospitality business. You're not in the landlord tenant relationship, right? You're basically now you become your own little mini hotelier kind of space where you're really looking to provide, you know, say clean environment. Probably can't stress that enough on it all, because I don't know if you've been into some before, you start like looking around and things like that. Maybe it's not quite up to par, the hardy look looks great in photos, and then you get there, not so much. Ratings are certainly everything in that world. And so, you know, 4.7 stars is really the bottom that you're looking, I'd say would be acceptable in terms of reviews, right? That's really a space where it makes or breaks you. In fact, from what I understand, really once you start trending, say below that, you're less likely to be featured on those pages, right? Of Airbnb, VRBO, because you're not providing that consistent space, and then therefore you're just going to get hidden on the page. So really making sure that you're providing I would say a clean environment is priority numero uno on it all. Keep in mind, we just kind of talked on this, right? Like some jurisdictions are not as friendly to this kind of market, certainly whether it's in zoning or, you know, in some of these tourism markets, you've got large hotel lobbies that, you know, tend to work hand in hand with some of the local jurisdictions when it comes to zoning, kind of putting some restrictions on there. And so when you're looking at, I guess, identifying for these markets, it really just start looking at in those heavy tourism areas where the economy is pretty heavily based on tourism and travel, and the likelihood, I think, at that point of running into these kind of issues are going to be less common overall. That's kind of one thing to really look out for.
What's an example of one of those areas?
Certainly here in Knoxville, I mean, in the city, right, is one spot where you'll find people on game day. That's restrictive.
No, that's kind of wide open.
Oh, that's wide open. Certainly our market out here in Sevier County, you know, that's all tourism based. Their whole economy out there is pretty much reliant on tourism. We've got the most visited national park in the US. It tends just to bring people and spending dollars, and that's just the economy out there. So just really start looking at those areas first and foremost, because that's where you're going to be less likely to run into some issues. Have you run into any kind of issues on any of their stuff? Like they have, like Brandon, have you ever come across any kind of issue on yours or no?
When they tell you it's supposed to, when they can shut you down.
Right.
You were talking about some issues with some people we know that have a downtown condo that they're getting fined, right?
I mean, yeah, I mean, because if you keep doing it, you can get fined, I think it's like $50 a day.
For as long as that's like up or active on those sites.
Right.
Yeah, if you're doing it.
Yeah.
Anybody know about short-term rental restrictions on Pdus? So everywhere in the city of Knoxville, unless it's explicitly forbidden, you can do an additional dwelling unit. Like it's already built in when they recode, when they like change their coding to encourage like density. I think it's an opportunity I haven't seen anyone look at. All these properties that don't make a ton of sense as like a short-term rental, like we're doing this flip, we ran the numbers and we just want to turn this over. But we could have like put an additional structure on the back of this. It's a 3-acre lot in East Knoxville. And then that thing would have been cranking like 25K a year just out of traditional rental. So I'd be curious to see that Like that would make a lot of
People lean
sense.
that way a little bit more.
Like a garage apartment, like that one that David just built over on like Lemon and Washington. Right, where he's got a garage apartment over the garage. Like that would be like another way to do that. Especially if you're, and you can still get in those at a price point that makes some sense.
Sure.
As a primary.
Say for homeowners even in that position, right, to go ahead and just finance out the build and build a garage in the backyard, as long as it all fits and conforms, it's checking in, if you have like HOA restrictions or things like that. By and large, they're around the city or like downtown. Yeah, I'd say there's probably a really good opportunity for those people to go ahead and just build that garage with the apartment above as a quick, easy hack to get by that system.
And my experience with the city and zoning has been like, they've been pretty, if you just go down to the city county building, they've always been pretty easy, like someone will sit and like explain this to you.
There's also like, there's several different places that I know, like within an hour of Knoxville, that creates tiny house kind of self-contained units. For like less than 10 grand, you can get, the ceiling and the walls, it's like it's gutted, but a new construction that, and then you can just put in whatever infrastructure you want to. So, I mean, that's a cheap way, where you can put, it looks like a shed or it looks like whatever, but, it is an additional place that's available.
Was it Bill? Right. On that, because you're in like Teleco, and that's an area that's intrigued me a little bit in terms of, they haven't really come down on many restrictions that I'm aware of in terms of this space. Is that something you, from being a resident out there, is that something you hear? Is that looming? Because we've got some, some friends of ours that are like, business partners or builders out there that have expressed interest in that, or that might be at least another avenue, from living out there. What's been your experience with it?
Yeah, Teleco Village hasn't been as popular as it has been for the last 2 years. I mean, it started in 1990. They really had a tough time. There's 8,000 or 10,000 vacant lots out there, and where they were when they first started.
Sure.
And now there's still 2,000 left vacant lots, and they're just starting to, with the prices going up, they're just starting to say, hey, maybe we should have some bylaws when it comes to rentals. So they're really it's advantageous for rentals, really. There's 11 townhome associations, and all of them rent.
Wow.
All of them rent, yeah. So, and the prices are what you can get. I mean, I have VRBO calling me every couple of weeks saying I'm not charging enough based on the rest of the community. Like Sevierville, I mean, I know guys that have cabins out there that are renting just some unbelievable nightly rentals they're getting. But to answer your question, I think that it's favorable for renting. It really is. You have to ask the right people, and I know all those people. If anyone ever needs it, just call me and I could steer them in the right direction.
Sure. That'd be good to know. 'Cause I feel like that's a market too that's gotta be desirable for people traveling here into town, want to stay out on the lakes, that kind of thing.
Probably more relaxing experience.
Yeah, no doubt. And just, I guess in that, I've been kind of like wondering if they would ever shut it down, but I guess maybe they would grandfather some people in. If they were
Also,
in like.
I didn't know for years that Teleco is an age restrict.
That it's not?
No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've never seen anyone that's not under 55 out there. Yeah, but it is not a 55, exactly, right? You go to the grocery store, there's no retirees there. So. It's fun.
I don't think Tennessee officially has 55 enough, do they?
I don't know.
I don't
I think so.
You're the broker, Rob.
Yeah.
Here's Carrie.
You're Carrie.
Yeah, I've been looking, so, in about 3 years, I'll be eligible. No.
Our version of the villages.
Yeah.
Right.
You talked about 4.7 stars and like there's property management companies that do all this stuff, cabins, stuff, and houses. Like, to me, that sounds like something you have to prevent. Like, there's no way to course correct it.
Right.
So how do you prevent it? Like, is it just make sure it's clean, or is it like help with property management? Or...
Yeah. You want to take this, Cory? You want to take, we can both take you from hospitality.
Yeah, great question. Unless you lead
Cory,
on.
yeah, Cory, if you don't know, by the way, worked his way up from the kitchen to like owning and running a restaurant, GM. So he's great for some conflict escalation. Kai talked about this, it's just being anticipatory of potential problems. Like you may have to put someone up in a hotel room, right? Like the ultimate thing is you got to save their vacation.
Yes.
They're here on a vacation, they want to enjoy the experience, so think through, it's the Savannah banana thing.
Sure.
We talk about all the time.
Yeah.
We can tag that later, after this, we'll come back to it, but how do you make the guest experience pleasurable? Put yourself in their shoes, identify every pain point, consistently communicate on the front end, like expectations about check-in and like what that goes through, and have someone else go through that process. Like, you know, your high C, hyper detailed, asks you way too many questions, you're trying to invite somewhere, friend, you know. And then the other thing was like, so Kai has like backup AC for those Europe's, he's got backup AC, like, you know, an
Backup
AC,
hot plates.
like a portable one. He knows what he's gonna run into, right? He's gonna have toilet issues, he's gonna have those issues, just having like a team on staff to fix those. Like what are the most common ones? But probably that's the biggest one, is gonna be some sort of an AC or a plumbing issue. And then just being willing to like eat that, put them in a hotel, like for the referral, just thinking about it as if you are running like a small business, right?
Yeah, and just anticipating.
Which is very different than like being a landlord, where it's like, if I can just talk them into fixing them themselves. Like I could have a business where I just make it difficult to call me and they just deal with stuff because they don't want to deal with me. And there's no review system and they're locked in a lease for a year.
Yeah, versus that is you really do have to work through, I mean, like put yourself in there for a while, hang out, invite some people over to stay and really try to troubleshoot all of those issues that are going to come up. And really it's just you're going to be your response to an issue when it comes up that's really going to determine what that end review is going to be like at the end of the day. I think, are there going to be some people that are impossible to please? Sure. Right. And at the same time, I at least look forward, like people are forgiving as long as you're straight up and honest and look to work to solve the issue on the front end. I think that really goes a long way with people at the end of the day.
And I'll wrap this up here. One, Southern hospitality, like just go the extra thing, put a guide in your rentals of like, hey, if you're here, here's my favorite coffee place. Here's where I go for breakfast, right? Just make it simple for them. Here's a great place. Just those 5 things alone would be like, awesome, thank you so much. You know, we went to Eateries and we had ramen and this was the coolest experience ever. We're in an amazing city. Like really, I went to Corpus Christi for a vacation and I will never talk bad about Knoxville. Ever. There's so much to do here. And the last piece would just be like, with the biggest, if you look at like doctors and like, if they get sued for medical malpractice, it's bedside manner, it's not competence. Like doctors that came in, it took a minute, they were like, hey Chris, how are you doing? Oh my gosh, you have kids? And then screw you up, get sued at a much lower rate than like highly efficient doctors that come in and are like, all right, chart to move on. So I think it's just bedside manner, just being welcoming, just reaching out like, hey, I know you're checking in today. Here's my contact. Do you need anything? Yeah.
I have a question. If you're having that managed though, aren't you kind of out of that equation?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're using a third party management, 100%. And that's on the company that they're getting the management.
Right.
You know, it just depends. A lot of owners that we have self-manage some portion of their bookings through Airbnb or VRBO. And then like have a shared calendar with whatever their management company is, because they retain, it's like a lower management fee. So I've seen that one too. Yeah.
Depending on your temperament though, you know, there's nothing, even if you have somebody who's managing the whole thing, there's nothing to keep you from putting your picture and your telephone number on there to take care of when panic issues happen, if you're local.
We were in I'm looking at a really high-end rental for like $1.5 million and they got a gas stove and it constantly gets broken. And I was like, dude, we're living in 2022. Like record a video on YouTube, put a QR code right next to it, like on a little easel stand, like here's how to work the oven.
Yeah.
Fireplaces too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It's not rocket science.
Yeah. Having things labeled. I was in a cabin the other day and like every light switch was labeled, like this is what this works. This is how this is going to control. Yeah, just being hospitable, anticipating the issues, and shouldn't run into too many problems overall. So getting started on this, certainly start looking at different areas, start looking at Airbnb, see what other competition is out there doing and kind of determining what you're gonna wanna be. Airbnb, I kind of did a little poll a couple weeks ago just to kind of see like what do you like to use and why, and what are the perceptions beyond that? You know, I'd say show of hands in this room a little bit. People use Airbnb. Sure, me, right?
We can sell that.
VRBO, a preference on that platform as opposed to, cool, okay, yeah. Starting with Airbnb, they are certainly the biggest player on that market, so that's going to be a better place to start. But I have heard a few different people's opinions of why they like maybe Airbnb use of the platform. Okay, some people say they like VRBO because they found those properties were a little bit more, I don't know, nicer. My wife said that too. She's like, I don't know, they just seem like they're just nicer, a little bit more like luxurious properties. And then other people are like, well, I like Airbnb because I find a little more of the unique stays on there. But that's going to be a good go-to resource initially when it comes to determining what you're looking for. I'll also say too, this is a great time just to like talk with your lender, right? And seeing like what are those, what kind of financing do I need to do this? Whether this is going to classify as like a second home versus, I guess, an investment property. Well, I've got some lenders in the room. I'd be curious, like, where does that second home line start? Like, how far away does it have to be from my primary residence before it counts as a second home?
There's no
I don't know. Anybody?
There's no true like distance requirement. It
Okay.
just needs to really make sense, right? Like, if I live in Farragut, I'm not gonna buy a vacation home in Farragut or a second home in Farragut.
Okay.
I'm gonna buy one at North Lake, or I'm gonna buy one in Sevierville. That makes sense. I could sell that to an underwriter. I can't sell two homes in the same,
Area.
Yeah.
So it just has to be what I would call like, you call like a reasonable distance
Yeah.
away.
Well, also like the area, like you could live in East, Strawberry Plains and buy a second home, literally in a Sevierville area.
Sure.
Because it's a tourist area, like she's saying, that's an easy sell to an underwriter.
And that could be a second home, but you can buy an investment property anywhere. So
Right.
you could buy an investment property, if you live in Farragut, you could buy the house next door and rent it out and be an investment property. That works all day.
Sure.
long. But the second home is gonna have way more scrutiny. We need to make sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
It's not really a huge advantage right now. to
it's
do
not,
second home.
that's a great point too.
Yeah.
So there's,
In terms of the rate and like where that's at,
Correct, yeah.
like it's not.
There used to be.
used
I know a
to
bunch
be.
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unless you're putting like 60, 40, 50% down, not really get an advantage to do a second home. We used to do 10% second down.
Yeah, that was
Second home,
definitely what I was
all the
familiar
time.
with. So did that
It was
like,
a beautiful
did
thing.
that get nixed?
The rate is the same as an investment property now,
Uh-huh.
so it doesn't really
The government helped
benefit
us.
you.
Sure. Yeah,
And that happened
so-
just recently, didn't it?
That
Yeah.
happened like March 1st for us. We had anyone closed after that date have to go on.
Have to go as
And it's
well, perfect, yeah, since today.
Well,
Perfect.
look at the time.
Perfect
Yeah.
timing for that to happen, right?
That's something similar that happened early last year.
They are higher, right?
So they may
Yeah.
nix it at some point.
Sure.
Right now. The other advantage to investment versus second home, if, we're talking about down payment
Yeah.
not being an issue,
Yeah.
you can count the income that's generated from the property on an investment towards your qualified.
Sure.
So you can sometimes even it out or just, come out ahead.
So in this case, right, as an example, if I'm looking to buy a cabin for $500,000 and it's grossing $100,000 a year in income, I can use that 100,000 income as my income on this purchase. How much of that income counts? All of it? Certainly, I wouldn't think 100K gross if we use those like a round number.
There's a lot of different cases for that. I mean, the general has always been 75%.
Okay.
But documented, you can use all of those documented.
How do you find that value or like the rental value?
Sure.
It's only if you're buying one that's already rented or already has that history.
Sure.
What if it doesn't have history?
Great question.
That's-
We get rid of that.
So it's interesting because the banking world is very different than my world.
Yep.
I could break in and differentiate right now.
Let's elaborate. Yeah, please do.
So everything that they say is kind of opposite for us. So for us, we only really look at the rental income. We don't look at DTI. So, I mean, everybody's rates have gone through the roof in the last month and a half. For a while, we were somewhat neck and neck with banks on investment properties. I don't know where you guys are at. I mean, we're lucky to get something done on 30 years at like 5.25, 5.5 right now. It got really bad really quickly.
It did, yeah. We were like at 4.75 or 4.875, we're hovering right around 5, the last few I looked at.
Yeah, so we're always about a half a point ahead of you guys, but I mean, behind, however you want to view it, worse than.
Yeah.
But the difference is we don't care about income. So what always differentiates why somebody goes to a bank versus why somebody goes for hard money in a long-term scenario is for us, it's strictly DSCR and the debt service coverage ratio. That and your credit. But we're not concerned about, like, if you make $400,000 a year or you make $43,000 a year in your personal income, it's not what we look at.
Right.
So that's your differentiating factor.
One big positive to the SCR is the appraisal. Because most of the time, the sales price of the cabin is never going to appraise on a regular appraisal.
Right.
It's not actually worth $2 million.
Right.
It is when you go cash flow, look at all the numbers, but the value is standalone. It's hard to comp and all that stuff. So the DSCR, sometimes you don't even have to be 1-to-1. Sometimes you can be 0.75 of meaning the cost monthly and the income. Most time now as an investor, you want to be at 1.25.
Yeah,
right,
sure.
as a minimum. But as far as getting a loan, you can actually go below.
I usually can't get anything done unless it's about a 1.25. So I'm normally for us, it's got to be that. But somebody that you had asked the question just now.
So I guess my question is,
how do they value it if it doesn't have a renter?
well, yeah, so like I know someone that has a home in Sevierville, like 2,100 square feet.
Yep.
It's not Mountain View, but it's private and it's great location. How can I find a guesstimate of what that should probably cash flow on a yearly basis?
Awesome, Lisa
Awesome question.
Collins in the chat. Thank you, Lisa, watching us on Facebook. We love you. If you don't know the Collins, I wish they were here. They're my short-term rental partners. They crush it out there. You just go, we have partners with local management companies that will comp this stuff out and give us projections. So we use Mikasa a lot, there's Cabins USA. I can give you some names, Chris.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can certainly like what we call a kitten.
Is that the one you gave me?
Go into
the
there.
property manager?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Yeah, it's the same, it's the same list.
They give me your.
There is a good formula we're going to get into of like, here's how you can sort of guesstimate what that's going to be based on the area. If we're just trying to do what I call a quick and dirty math.
I go
on the lending side, though, they do penalize you for that to a degree.
Yeah.
So in other words, when you don't have your own history and you're going off the history of other like homes, similar homes, you don't get the same level of credit for that income. They discount whatever that income is because you haven't personally proven it.
Okay.
But you know,
Short term rough around that.
Yes,
yeah,
sure.
that's what he's talking about. Yeah, right. Yeah,
There-
short term for sure.
Long term.
There are some management companies that will guarantee income for select properties, and it's a specific program that they have. If you have questions on that, when we get done, happy to go deep on that one. We've got about, for the sake of time, because it's 6:50, I want to respect everyone's time. We got about 15 slides. So we'll clock through like 5 at a time, stop, and then we can deep dive mastermind network, do whatever we want. We got the room. But in case anybody's like, hey, I was here till 7 and I want to get this info and roll. We just want to be respectful.
Yeah.
You know, people got places to go.
Yeah, totally. So real quick, kind of some ways to, when you're identifying your areas, things you want to kind of like really look for. Major cities is always going to be a good spot to kind of look into. Access to like airports, convention centers. Certainly it helps when it's close enough for any kind of like maintenance or supply runs. When it comes to that, you don't want to be like so far out removed that you really just can't do anything to manage it. Ideally, you really would like to have one major attraction in place. It could be man-made or natural. So if we think like Disney World or Great Smoky Mountains or the beaches, those are all going to be just great areas to start to look at overall. And then I'd give some kind of supplementary, what we call like a minor attraction, maybe specific bars or restaurants, or on the more natural side of things, hiking trails, things like that for people just to kind of go into outside of just that one major piece. So here we got tubing, right, kayaking, hiking, rock climbing, all those outdoor activities are all going to be found here. So being somewhere that's going to be close enough for that is going to help overall. Checking out your competition, again, easy to do, going on Airbnb, VRBO, looking at their calendars, seeing how full they are, what rates are they getting at. Really being able to really kind of niche down what you're going to be after, right? Just looking at other people, seeing what they're doing successfully and try to kind of duplicate that. Identifying your customer, who that person is going to be if this area is more popular to, say, ecotourism, or this is a more popular area for retirees to come park the RV and camper and just hang out, or is it families that are traveling to the area? Really trying to, like, you want to identify almost kind of who your target demographic is going to be, right? Because we're moving into hospitality, not just strictly on like a landlord tenant kind of basis. So you've got the option to really, you can get as hyper niche as you want to be in terms of, hey, if I'm doing a glamping site, I'm only trying to really cater towards millennial couples with disposable income that are going to totally come pay good money to like hang out in my yurt in the backyard kind of thing. Cool. It's probably not going to work for the elderly couple who's towing the RV around and looking to set up. But that's really one thing to look at, is just your target demographic, your customer base. Your property, making sure it kind of matches that target base you're looking for. If your competition in the area is going to have pools or things like that, ideally you're probably going to want something similar as well that's going to have those same features or amenities that are going into there. This is good too. Just buying new custom building can actually work in your favor if the rents support it. I know, Brandon, you've got like a build going right now, yeah? Like you're building a cabin lake kind of thing. Can we talk real quick? I want to talk about that kind of like financing setup we've got going right now, because that's pretty sweet for projection long term.
Yeah. So it took forever to find an actual lender that would do 10% second home construction. One close. That was really hard to find. Yeah. So I found that Gateway has an option, just so you guys know.
Sure.
And but the rate on it's crazy. It's 5%. So but you're locked in for a whole year.
Sure.
You're paying interest only.
Interest only for a year, and then
it'll float down to
So-
what the current rate is.
Which will be fine.
right, right. Well,
Sorry, Brandon.
no, but that's a great, I would say it's a good position to be in
I was just
necessarily,
gonna say,
right?
I
Because
think
if
that
it's locked in at
sounds great.
5, cool, and if it
But rates
changes then.
for 3%, that sounds terrible, but today,
It won't get any worse than 5.
yeah, I like
Right,
that.
yeah, so I mean, as a
That's
way to
really
at
great.
least like guarantee, and you're gonna appreciate with new construction on there into a community that I'm sure is gonna be
I mean, in
outstanding.
a year from now, I'm thinking the equity would probably be like 75, 80,000.
Sure, yeah,
Just dropping close.
solid, yeah, super solid. So that's where new construction can certainly be an advantage worthwhile kind of taking a look at. Let's do it. You just asked about the numbers. Here's a great formula to use when it comes to that. If you're trying to kind of look at, so you want to take your occupancy rate. So how much of the month can you expect to be rented? Your nightly rate, we're going to take that occupancy rate, we're going to multiply it by the average nightly rate. That's going to give you an effective nightly rate. You can then take that number and multiply that times 365 days. And that's going to give you a good projected annual gross revenue you should be able to expect on that property. Now that is going to be subjective, obviously, like to that property, but if we're trying to do just kind of quick and dirty math, what is this going to support? This is where you can go to those kind of websites like Airbnb or AirDNA is a great website to go to use. They sell data on different markets that'll give you like full breakdown. So I'll kind of do an example here. Units are rented at 75% of the time at an average of $200 a night. So 75% times 200 is $150 times 365. That gives you an expected gross of $54,750. Let's just say AirDNA is going to be a good resource to use on there because they sell data at like a hyper specific like local market. So you can just go buy the data for Smoky Mountains, right? They have like a membership or something like that you can just have any market across the thing, but it's up there. It's probably $100 a month or something like that, at least for that data. So it just depends. You can really just kind of niche it down with that website, or you can have everything, or if you want to be frugal like me and just do some kind of quick math, that's going to be a good way. Most properties, if they're already on a plan when they're being sold, they're gonna have that data up front. That's just part of like the sales package, and the extent is, here's what we're getting, here's the P&Ls, or here's our gross rents we've had for the last couple of years. Ideally, especially now, it'd be good to see that, 2-3 year trend back. Certainly, I think everybody took a dip in COVID and then has rebounded since, but it'd be good, I think now if you're looking, having something 2019, see what 2020, 2021, and then where we're trending 2022. Most everything I've seen, it's all up in 2022 right now. One of the properties we have listed, just kind of went under contract, did 67,000 last year. It's probably going to clear 80 plus this year already. He's already got like close to 40 grand on the books over March 1. So that's just going to keep going. But for just kind of quick math reference, if you want to kind of calculate it, it's not a bad way to go about it. It's just taking that occupancy rate, multiply it by your average nightly rate, multiply that number by 365, and that should give you your gross revenue. I don't know. Let's talk about management on all this. So certainly you can manage yourself. There are the resources and tools out there to do it. Or you can always go out to, a local property management company in this, and those rates are gonna change. I think those rates are gonna vary anywhere. Some are, maybe 20%, upwards of 50% of the gross rent is gonna go towards the management of that property. Knowing if you're gonna be doing it by yourself, you probably need to be available pretty regularly to be able to anticipate or handle any issues that are gonna come up, which is why some folks might just go right to a management company. I think personally, I would probably recommend it starting out. At least having somebody that takes it over, or in some cases, if you're buying an existing property that's already managed, you might have to, based on their agreements, you might have to stay with that property management company for 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year, or close that out because of their contracts that they have. Sometimes that can be a bit of a sting when it comes to hitting kind of your bottom line, and yet I would say it's not necessarily a bad thing, especially if it's your first one and you're just really trying to like dip your toes into these waters. Having something there that's in place and already rolling that gives you time to build out your own systems if you wanted to kind of take it over, it's not a bad thing. Brandon, because you've got one, do you manage your own or do you guys contract it out? You just self-manage it kind of thing?
It's not hard.
Yeah. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Like there's not much time, and you have to answer questions and stuff that come up, but typically I go in, in the winter, I'm reducing rates just to get people to come in. Because in the peak season, we're at $350 a night and people pay it. So I mean, like, June through August is completely, always booked, and we're looking at $10,000 months. So it just depends on the seasonality of it, but as far as anything that happens needs to be fixed, I mean, it's just a phone call. I had an issue happen while people were staying there, and the heat or the air conditioner went out. So I went up there with like 4 bottles of like champagne and bought fans and
love it.
It was just like, I'm sorry, they're coming, they're gonna fix it and everything. So I mean, I got a 5-star. So.
Perfect. Right. So this goes back, like if there's an issue, respond quickly, and kind of just going over the top in terms of taking care of people.
But not much time, so it's totally doable if you're got a little bit of extra time.
Sure. Justin.
Totally doable for us that put out fires all the time. But what's the biggest challenge on the management team? Has it been like a consistent cleaner? Has it been like having a plumber and HVAC, or?
Cleaning person's fine. I would say find a unit that doesn't need, it's pretty new. And I got lucky because mine was, relatively new. It's 07, so
sure,
it didn't need much whenever I bought it. And I have a home warranty on it too. So if something happens, I just use the warranty, and that's $600 a year.
I feel like this is the example of the person that rents to like, they improved my property and then they did the landscaping, and then they stayed there for 20 years and found me someone else.
That's my renters.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was like, I love it.
That's perfect. Yeah, the perfect scenario.
People like Brandon a lot more than me. I was like, no.
The one having some of the issues.
Utilize the home warranty.
Yeah, that's a great.
$65 for a service call.
Yeah, great great opportunity there.
I think
Just go ahead.
cleaning's.
Finding consistent cleaning.
Fucking cleaner
Yeah.
that won't stand you up and has some coverage is the single biggest piece.
Yeah, I'd say having two on
'Cause
standby.
you can
'cause
leverage the
something
cleaner
will
for a
happen.
ton of other things. Like, if
Yeah.
you're already coming to the property, you can pay them extra to like
Right.
bring by an air filter or whatever, or.
Keep coffee refill, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Little things.
Yeah,
But like, if it's not clean, that will wreck your.
it will blow everything out of the water.
It
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
no, and probably having 2 or 3 wouldn't be a terrible play because things inevitably happen and somebody's sick,
Just
somebody
like a
misses, having a
service.
backup, something along those lines, would probably be a good worthwhile resource to have. When we talk about multi-channel, we're talking about kind of marketing these properties. Again, starting with Airbnb is the biggest platform that's out there, to start off with your bookings and then probably leaning more into things like VRBO. People are probably doing things either on Facebook or HitCamp. There's a number of different platforms that are out there. It's starting with kind of the biggest one is going to be the best play. Brandon, do you use Airbnb, VRBO, only Airbnb?
VRBO is very prominent in North Lake. If you've ever tried to find anything on Airbnb, North Lake, it's kind of hard to find. I don't know why. So that's just what I found. So I just stuck with VRBO.
Yeah, that's the only platform
It's
you
the only one I,
use
Does
right
it
now.
cost you to put them on there?
it's $500 a year, and then they take a small percentage of your, but it's not anything like Airbnb. Airbnb takes a big chunk.
Right,
Okay.
in terms of a percentage of
VRBO is
That's
more
important.
solid. I like it. Thanks for
This
that.
is also an opportunity if you have, if you're buying multiple short-term rentals to buy a couple of small houses around there and actually rent them to people who are maintaining them. So you could actually have a tenant, a long-term tenant, and a portion of their rent goes toward what, taking care of your others.
Sure.
Compound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the downside of it? Yeah.
Yeah, not bad.
So,
Yes.
question,
Yeah,
That's right.
actually, one, can you advertise a single property on both platforms? Or would that even be beneficial if you do that?
yes and yes.
Okay,
If you're trying to look to filling those vacancy gaps, and
Yeah.
having marketed across multiple platforms and channels is only going to help you when it comes to like a great market exposure.
Is there a third-party system or something that makes them
Right,
line up their
talk to each
calendars?
other.
They will talk to each other.
They don't. They don't talk to each other though.
No.
That's the hard part, because you have an instant booking guarantee with
Yeah.
VRBO. And that's what I ran into was we would get, in the peak season, you're getting renters like probably 2 or 3 a day.
Sure.
And so if you confirmed that they're gonna get it on VRBO and somebody else wants to book it on Airbnb, then you have to go back and make sure your rates are the same and everything. And even if it's available or not, so I just cut it out.
Cut it
It's
out.
too confusing for me.
Sure. Yeah. One thing that some property management companies will use, or certainly if you're managing it on your own, one system is just what's called like dynamic pricing. And so that is fluctuating your nightly rate based on seasonality, weather, in order to really just kind of drive the occupancy rate up, knowing that you're going to likely make up any perceived like lost ground of, hey, if it's raining and sucks outside, but I need to get somebody in there, and so you run a special, get in there, you're going to make it up on your holiday weekends or things like that. You can always, turn things up a little bit on those times and make it up, but as a good way to up your occupancy, having some kind of dynamic pricing system in there is going to help you out. And there are management companies on there that build that into their platform just so that they're always having 80+% occupancy throughout.
From a
the year.
consumer point, I like that too, because, maybe Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are $50 and, Thursday, Friday, Saturday are 100. Whenever you look at it, it kind of evens out where you're paying $65 or something for the whole time.
Mhm.
And it's just psychological. I think that's a good way to look.
Yeah, not everybody takes weekends off, right? So people want to take a little spur of the moment vacation in the middle of the week, and having something like that's going to at least help you again keep the rates up. Talking about kind of reviews, things to consider, right? Understand your review, dispute, arbitration process for that platform. So how complaints and things like that come through Airbnb or VRBO. I think Brand made a good point of just having your info there just in case. So they can always communicate with you directly. It's probably not a bad thing to have at the end of the day. Because it is your reviews are going to be everything when it comes to the long-term sustainability of that. So being able to make sure you have all of those safety nets in place is going to help you out, right? Being unique, we talked about a little bit, certainly leaning into those unique stays. And so looking at those glamp ground kind of setups, right? Yurts, tents. I learned about hip camp this past year for my sister-in-laws because they like to go out and camp and stuff like that. So it's a platform that people will rent out, say if you have that spare acreage for that farmer who just wants to let people go camp out in the pasture kind of thing, charge 20 bucks a night and let people just go hang out and pitch a tent. And it's not a bad way to have some passive income on the side for just otherwise letting cows walk around. That kind of blew my mind when I heard about that.
The facilities might be interesting.
Sure, right?
$25 to tip cow.
Yeah, no doubt. Ultimately on the advertising, much the same as like when we're selling real estate, professional photos are always a help. Making sure that you're actually taking the time to do the right things when it comes to marketing the property. Your ability to succeed is going to be based on that ability to stand out and be unique and provide a good solid experience for someone overall. Couple quick resources. Our friend Kai Andrew, again, I was talking with him today, so we're working on setting up that mastermind. I'll make sure to send that out as like an email for people to kind of jump into. We're kind of penciling in that date coming up for probably later on this month. So kind of be on the lookout for that. A couple of books, things to like look for: Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth, Avery Carl, Buying and Optimize Your D&B. That was a really good one. The Definitive Guide to Ranking #1 in Airbnb Search, and then also just leaning into the local experts in your area is going to be a big resource, right? So looking at those property management companies, agents that maybe specialize in those niches, going to be good resources to go to.
I would look at too, whenever I'm doing stuff like this, if you're trying to figure this out, look up a keyword search analyzer. Like Google AdWords has one. There used to be a couple other ones. The one I went to was asking me to sign in. I went to do on the call here. So you can look at the difference between keyword searches for like Airbnb Gatlinburg or Gatlinburg cabin rentals or like Knoxville rentals. It's like a 10x. It's hard to tell because it's so, you know, I want to get more detail on it if I was really trying to look at it that way. But you can see like it's an order of magnitude different for like what Gatlinburg short-term rentals are versus like Knoxville short-term rentals. And that will kind of tell you like how to market, it can tell you where to look. And then frankly, I'm lazy. So anytime I want to know something, like we just ask people. That's how I'm always like, how do we go get this guy that's an expert to talk to us?
Yeah.
Like who's got a YouTube channel with a bunch of followers instead of just like asking each other.
Yeah. Let's go talk to Kai.
Pretty much.
Super solid dude overall.
Yeah.
It's a good time. Just questions, ahas, comments, queries. Make it
Two takeaways.
Two takeaways, yeah.
Anything at all?
not at all.
All right, cool.
My favorite is still the
We're
math.
still soaking it up. We're still processing.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, for me, the math formula was huge overall. If I'm just really trying to calculate like, what is this overall moving? Once I picked that up, that was a game changer when it comes to analyzing deals and opportunities and markets. Because I was looking at a little river cabin way up near the Tennessee-Virginia border, and it's cheap, but not a lot of people go there. And so I was like, how can I make this work that maybe could work for me and try to find some nightly rates on there? Yeah.
What are some automatic red flags when you're considering an Airbnb?
Ooh, sure. Automatic red flags. Some things that I guess when it comes to depending on your niche or your market, it's going to depend, I guess, on that. One of my friends brought up, he was in the process of like looking for a cabin and was finding a lot of things with stairs and issues with that. And like, well, if I have somebody that's, in a wheelchair, I need something that's ADA compliant. Really, he was looking for something more on one level, ease of access. Yeah. Brandon, what's red flags? Anything jumped out at you when you were shopping around?
Yeah, I mean, definitely make sure your neighbors look good. You don't want to have a rental and it's done.
Have Sanford and Son next door.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, like, you know, the drive in is always nice. You know, it could be that it's trashy and, you know, that you don't, probably wouldn't want to,
Sure.
probably wouldn't want to buy that.
Yeah.
because You're just gonna get, you know, your views are gonna start cycling.
Yeah.
So,
Let the commute getting into there, right? If you need
Yeah.
4-wheel drive
yeah,
versus
I mean,
like.
it's- I'm
Prius,
already
it's
pulled out.
gonna work.
Even if the unit's not, like the area's bad, because it's like, I was looking at, a couple tiny homes in Crossville, just hatched,
Yeah.
and the community itself, like, I love the individual, the units,
hmm
but I'm like, I can't, like,
People driving into there are just gonna get turned off.
not pass on it.
The one that Rob was looking at, and they had a car deteriorating in the neighbor's driveway and trash just everywhere, and I was like,
Part of the charm, right?
Yeah, it's like anywhere else.
yeah. it's like,
Yeah,
it's
because you're
horrible.
7 minutes to downtown Gatlinburg, but you got the Hatfields on this side and McCoy's on this
It's a long-
side.
it's a
Really?
long side.
Yeah.
It's like-
Bring a fight jacket.
It's a great area, so it's for kind of.
Right on.
Yeah, good luck.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, real quick, just kind of want to set a little reminder. I mean, if you found some value to this, definitely please go online, go on our meetup page, leave us a review, tell your friends, right? Bring somebody to our next meetup. Really, this is what I love to do, just pour into others. So the more people we can kind of get together, I think the better all we all just grow and learn and kind of become.
I need at least 2 ahas. There's free pizza and there's booze here. Somebody give me some kind of a takeaway they got from this, just so we know how to cater to the next one. This is brand new content.
Yeah.
We're rolling it out nationally today, so I'd love some feedback before everyone else in the country teaches it.
There's booze?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't open up the bar, make an announcement.
I know,
I like to be creative,
Yeah.
to be creative.
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought this was great for me personally, because I actually prefer cabins.
Yeah.
I wanted cabins, but I didn't think I'd get the occupancy like I would closer to downtown, so even just the scope of us talking about it was really helpful for me
Yeah.
to revisit that.
no, that's fascinating. That's really fascinating to hear, because I love that perspective, because that's a whole different, like,
Yeah,
we're in that market all the time, looking at the P&Ls and like looking at, but
I've been renting cabins here for
yeah,
25 years. I mean, I know that space, and I just never would have thought that it would have
sure.
the density
Yeah.
that you can get closer to a metro area. I would have never thought that.
Yeah, it's almost easier out there, like.
Yeah, it sounds like
everything's
it, which is great.
oriented
Yeah,
around
terrific.
vacation rentals. All the resources are there in place.
Sure.
One thing I do want to plug, not all management companies are created equal.
Yeah.
Just keep that really clear, like, by switching management companies, they can change rates, they can change marketing, they're definitely not. I've seen some drastic differences by buying it and just switching a management company.
Mhm.
Yeah,
My takeaway, here's your second one.
thank you,
The
sir.
technical one is to be very cautious, review restrictions. Local restrictions when you're going into it, so you know if something exists, like you don't do that.
And it might change over time.
That's tougher, but yeah, keep,
Mhm.
know what's going on in that very specific property address.
We're really lucky because we have a unique market that is kind of like restriction proof. They're
Yeah.
never gonna do anything in the majority of Sevier County to restrict short-term rentals. They've been there before the internet existed. They're not going away. And in a lot of other markets, I just wouldn't buy anything that's not zoned for it. You know, I'm licensed in Florida as well. I see how that's happening. I see it's a national conversation. It's happening even in cities like New York. There's neighborhoods that are changing because like the composition of the neighborhood is, it used to be like a family neighborhood, and there's people that are just there basically to party and like Hell's Kitchen, and then like the neighbors are not having it because they're like, dude, people are like trashed on a Tuesday. I'm trying to walk my kids to school. This is not gonna work.
So where was this? What was the address?
That was in
Yeah.
New York. That was in New York.
Right.
That was in New York. So that's it. Cool.
Cool.
Before we wrap this up, man.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, I just wanted to just take a second, kind of thank everybody for joining us. Make sure to go online, kind of RSVP for the next meeting. That's
Where?
gonna be at gridknoxville.com.
What was that?
www.gridknoxville.com for the people in the back. That's gonna be here. It's always the first Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. We'll be eating here or online, but certainly in the room. I always found is best for sure. So thanks so much again. Really appreciate everybody's time. We're gonna kind of shut down our live streams here.